Valley City is just your very quiet, small town. We're the city of bridges. It's just a beautiful place.
Great little college to go to where, everybody knows your name.
You can cruise the Strip, which is down Central and up Main. You can walk through the park. The park is over by the college.
Our college life was pretty mellow until that murder. Every moment after that was fear, living in fear. Is it somebody we know?
Please help me. I can't continue to put on shoes.
Our community as a whole was scared. I knew that we had a violent death on our hands.
You can take my picture, but I'm not a criminal.
She must have just got him really mad and he crapped.
Every footstep you take, you look behind your shoulder and you're wondering, is it that person or is it that person?
This girl deserves our best shot.
I worked here my entire life. I started cooking first because I was scared of people. And then as soon as I grew up a little bit and got more confident, I came out front and then I waitressed. And then that's how I met Mindy. She was one of my good work friends. She didn't really go out and drink and party. So if she did go out, I was expecting to drag her out and let's go. Me and my friend Danielle met up at the bar. We had a couple beers and we decided to call Mindy to see if she wanted to come downtown with us.
Hey, Mindy, it's Tony. Are you trying to get over here? Call me right away, okay? Bye.
Danielle tried calling from her phone and she also didn't answer. And we're like, oh, let's just go over there and swing by and pick her up and see what she's doing. When we got to Mindy's apartment, Danielle stayed in the car and I went upstairs. I knocked on her door, didn't hear anything, and I was like, Mindy, I know you're in there, your car's out here, Mindy, and knocking on the door. It was pitch black. And I just kind of stepped in and all of a sudden I saw something in front of my feet. And then I noticed it was Mindy.
I was in my car when Tony was running out of Mindy's apartment building, screaming and yelling. I think Mindy's dead. Something around her neck. Tony grabbed my left arm and literally dragged me from the seat of my car up to Mindy's apartment. I pushed Mindy's door open. I could see Mindy's body laying there. Her throat had been cut. I don't like to be reminded of what I saw. Upside down in her arm was an empty bottle of Pine Sol. And there was such the smell of Pine Sol was so overwhelming. And then that's when I saw a neighbor of Mindy's running inside the apartment. I personally don't know him. I didn't know him. I don't even honestly know if I met him. He crouched down next to Mindy. He put his hands on her wrist to take her pulse. He looked up at me and he said, "I'm sorry, sweetie, but your friend is gone."
I received a call regarding a homicide at about 9 o'clock in the evening. All I was told was, can you come to this address? We have a very suspicious looking death.
Started finding out more about Mindy and what a great person she was.
And she'd ride in a tractor with me with the cab on, and she enjoyed doing that.
Hey, it's Mindy, and I'm not here right now. Hi, Mindy, this is Mom. I think you may have tried to call me a little bit ago. Just calling you back. I didn't get to my cell phone in time. Bye. Call home. I'm at home. Bye.
I remember that evening, we heard a knock at the door. And I remember kind of turning over and looking at the clock. And it said 11:30, and I thought to myself, this isn't good.
And when we seen that this thing goes through your mind, you know, what happened, you know, what's going on? And when he had told us, he said, Mindy has been killed and is dead, you can't imagine.
I just remember stomping my feet and yelling, you know, no, 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 and ran up the stairs and went in Mindy's bedroom, and I grabbed her picture, and she had an old sweatshirt there that I was just hanging on to, and just kind of fell apart, you know, crying. And it was heart-wrenching, you know, really, really hard, very painful.
You know, like, I don't, you know, I hope nobody ever has to go through that knock on the door.
When we did the autopsy, it appeared like there may have been skin underneath her fingernails. We clipped her fingernails, and those scrapings and fingernails were sent to the state crime lab where they were analyzed.
The crime lab told us that the sample appeared to be biological material like skin, but this was such a whodunit kind of case. We had no idea who to really concentrate on as far as a suspect.
So we started looking into the ones that found Mindy, her friends, and Jay, the neighbor next door.
Okay, let's go back to Wednesday. You're home, watching TV, you sit down for supper, and then what happened?
Mindy's neighbor, who's one of the first people in Mindy's apartment after her friends found her.
I'm sitting on the couch, and I hear this abnormal noise outside.
He actually came up and touched the body. Well, it was certainly worth to talk to him.
My personal thoughts, it looked like, to me, like she was strangled.
What do you think that was?
Because I did prison time in California, and it seemed like.
We did find out that Jay had done time in prison.
Been involved in anything violent?
Just fights.
We also found a pick mark on him, like from the fingernail.
All your hands are really cut up and stuff. Is that normal from work?
Yeah, this is an everyday thing.
Handling steel and stuff?
Yeah, all day long, steel. I get cut up pretty bad.
So is he a good guy to look at? Yeah. You can't decide what happened in a crime and then go try to find the evidence to fit what you've already decided. You go find the evidence first, and that will lead you to what actually happened.
Friends found 22-year-old student Mindy Morgenstern dead in her apartment last night after she failed to meet them for dinner. Now police are trying to figure out who killed Mindy and why.
All right. Been a rough week for you, huh?
Nothing pretty.
Not for us either.
No, I bet.
Yeah. Getting back to Wednesday. You never looked at your hands and stuff?
No. But when I went up there, I'm not stupid either. I didn't touch anything.
Jay, the neighbor, was a person of interest in this case because he had entered the apartment to check on her. Would you be willing to submit some cheek swabs for
DNA?
Jay's DNA was taken. It takes a long time for DNA results to get back. So I couldn't say that Jay was ruled out after he was interviewed.
I am a little dry mouth right now.
Yeah. It was just one of those cases where you have to say, hey, let's get off our knock on doors and let's get this job done.
Right away, we started to canvass the neighborhood, conduct interviews of Mindy's friends, acquaintances.
They called me in. They asked if there was anybody we thought who would want to do this to Mindy or why, and I mean, we had no idea.
Was it someone who targeted Mindy, or was it just someone who might do it again? No one knew. Everyone was considered a suspect.
As far as investigation-wise, we certainly weren't going to rule anyone out.
What we're doing is trying to interview everybody that knew Mindy, everybody that had any dealings with her.
The police wanted to know if I had talked to her that day. I had visited with her at noon, so they wanted me to come down to her apartment and give a statement.
There was probably close to 50 to 75, maybe even 100 people interviewed.
Because access to the apartment was unrestricted, anyone could go into and out of that apartment.
Everybody in the community was scared. They didn't know who's next. This type of a crime just doesn't happen in a small community like Valley City.
Actually, the more we worked on it the first few days, the less we had because she had no enemies. Everybody seemed to adore the girl.
After the murder, outside of Mindy's apartment, I remember seeing lights flashing, all of these people coming in and out, all these people gathering, people crying, people hugging. And then you see this man carrying a laundry basket like there is nothing wrong with the chaos that is going on. And then that is when I saw Dave Swenson, police officer at that time, and I said, Dave, what is this guy doing?
Okay, just have a chair.
Mo Gibbs was a Barnes County correctional officer that lived in the apartment that Mindy lived in.
We appreciate you coming in.
Not a problem. Mo was actually on my co-ed softball team, and we had just played a state tournament the Sunday before Mindy was killed.
What we need to do is start eliminating people as suspects or having anything to do with it.
I don't really know who he is. Prior to him working as a correction officer, he had worked night security at the university.
Come on, Gil. Can you come on down for a minute? Oh, she's ready now. It'll be okay.
He had just gotten married to a lady that I knew who had a child, but he did work for the correction office.
Were you in the military?
Yes.
Okay, what branch?
Navy.
From when to when?
From 90 to 99.
What you do in the service?
Search and rescue.
Okay.
Since Mo lived in the apartment complex, we just wanted to eliminate him as a possible suspect.
So you got an honorable discharge then?
Dishonorable.
What was that for?
Assault.
Assault? Who did you assault?
It was long story.
Oh, okay.
Through our investigation, we found out that he had a criminal record, and in running his criminal record, he served time in prison before.
I appreciate you doing this, and like I said, you know, other people are going to complain about us asking them to take it, but we can say, hey, we started with a law enforcement officer, and he didn't have any problem doing it good.
Even though he was a correctional officer, we had to look into every possible lead, every possible suspect, because we just didn't know. And based off of the fact that he was there, he lived across the hall, he had a criminal history, he was a suspect. And so we collected a DNA sample from him and kept looking at other suspects and started digging into other leads.
Yeah? I was gonna try to catch the little one, but she's running too fast today for me.
I remember the day I took Mindy to college. We drove up to Valley City State University. She really didn't want to stay there. And I started to drive away even from the college, and here was Mindy flagging me down, you know, waving at me, and I stopped. And she just didn't know if she could go through it or not, you know. She could really stay there. But then I told her to take a deep breath, and she did. I said, you can do it, you can do it. And so she did. She took a deep breath, and she said, I'm all right, Mama. She always called me Mama. That was her way.
The Valley City State University campus is just a whole nother world within this small town. We aim our focus on our students to ensure that they can succeed at life with whatever it is that they decide to do. My office is in McFarland Hall. I work in the hall where Mindy and Kyle met.
The love of her life, she thought. He was a very nice boy, and he came out to the farm quite often with us, and part of the family. We kind of liked him, like wanted him to be our son-in-law someday. Their relationship had split up, and Mindy was trying to still get back together with him. She didn't want to let go of him.
In most of your homicides, usually the persons of interest are the people that are closest to the victim. Mindy had an ex-boyfriend. His name was Kyle, and she met him while she was attending college, and he played football for Valley City State University.
We kept trying to contact Kyle, and we're just not getting any response from him. Kyle, eventually did call us back and come in for an interview.
You want to have a chair here?
Yeah.
Can you just tell me how your relationship developed and what happened?
Well, we dated for about 2.5 to 3 years. It was, I guess, really hard and kind of a rocky relationship. It seemed like we were always arguing over whether it was the ex-boyfriend or something else.
We had to follow up with Kyle and find out why they broke up and when the last time they talked and things like that.
It seemed like any time I would chat with one of my friends that was a female that I'd known for maybe our freshman year up through our senior year, she would seem like she would get a little jealous. She would, yell at me about it, and I'd tell her, just relax. I said, it's like we've known each other for 3.5 years, and I mean, there's no feelings, nothing. I said, we're just talking about, the basketball game last night or something. And so I'd bring it up to her as far as, well, I said, so is it wrong to get upset with you if you're still talking to your ex-boyfriend compared to just a friend I've had before, obviously you were in the picture? She did have a very flirty personality as far as when we dated. And so, I don't know if that maybe got her into trouble, obviously with this thing, if maybe somebody at the restaurant, maybe a customer that, I don't know, if he flirted and she didn't flirt back then or something finally, and she got, upset or whatever. I mean, she was very flirty, young lady.
Have you had any other contact with her?
No, like I said, I don't remember receiving any phone calls that I didn't take or anything like that. I know she would kind of work or get information kind of through my dad or whatever. It seemed like him and her would continue to talk, and he'd call me and say, well, Mindy's, this is going on or this is going on. And I even asked my dad too. I said, I would appreciate it if you just stopped talking to her. That's kind of weird.
According to Kyle's father had continued to correspond and see Mindy even after she and Kyle were no longer in a relationship.
Ever come down to Valley City and help her with projects or anything like that? Like having to move furniture or anything like that?
When he told me, I'm trying to think now, yesterday or just a couple days, or Thursday actually, I think, obviously the night after the incident, he had kind of opened up and said that, well, you met with her on Monday and then talked on Tuesday and had been talking to her even prior to that.
Kyle's father, in fact, had visited with her the previous week and a couple of weeks prior to that.
I said, because really, Dad, I said, it's even tearing our relationship apart. I said, it's like, I don't want you talking to her. And I said, what do you, 10, 20 years down the road, you guys are still going to be talking, and Candace and I will maybe be married and having a couple of grandkids, and you're still going to be talking to my, ex-girlfriend. I said, that's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird.
Yeah. I think back in June or July, I told him I said, you stop talking to her. I said, unfortunately, I just won't come home for 2 years then, I said, and you can tell Mom and the siblings and brothers and sisters why.
In a chair, make yourself comfortable.
Kyle's father was a person of interest. He had a very close relationship with Mindy, and it made us kind of uneasy about how close that relationship was.
How do you suppose it's that you and Mindy became, you call it, friends, you know? She dated your son.
Correct.
I don't understand the relationship that you have with her after your son broke up. I don't
Well, you'd have to know Mindy. She was quite the bubbly character. I mean,
I understand that.
her actions and her, well, put it this way, she reminded me so much of my wife in her younger days.
One of the phone calls on Mindy's phone from the night that Mindy was murdered was actually found to be from Kyle's father.
So how many times in a week, in the last, let's say 3 months, in a week time, you know, have you called her, or on a day?
Probably 6.
6 times a week?
Yeah, that's a lot less than 20.
It used to be 20.
Oh, yeah, it was, you know, 3 times, 4 times a day.
So,
I mean, she would call me more than I would call her, type deal.
so you said it's 20 a week, but you cut her down to 6.
Correct. I think on that day that I found out, I think I did call the phone twice and left a message on.
I'm not here right now.
Mindy, this is Rod. I know what happened to you. I just love hearing your voice. Can't take it. I love you, kid. Please help me. Please help me, Mindy. I can't continue without you. Please help me. Some way, help me. Love you. Bye-bye.
The call that he left on her phone, this was a red flag that we were really interested in.
I know it's probably stupid to do that, but I wanted her quiet because I just wanted to hear her voice. Hi, this is Mindy. Hope you're having a good day.
We thought that was somewhat odd. However, you know, people do strange things. So we had to take DNA samples from Kyle's father.
You're not going to tell my throat going?
No, just alongside.
I'm gag, I know that.
All right.
At this time in the investigation, we had some really good suspects, which would be the ex-boyfriend Kyle, his father Rodney, the neighbors, Jay, and Mo. We had to keep eyes on all 4 of these suspects until the DNA samples came back.
This is Mindy's car, what she drove when she was going to school in Valley City. And there is a few things inside yet that are still hanging on the visor or on the mirror that she had. We just leave them in there. And it's just something that we can remember Mindy by. It's not going to bring her back, but she's not forgotten for that. The last time she was home, she took off in the car. And she was driving up the road, and all the car stopped. And she backed up, and we were outside, and I told Eunice, I said, I wonder what she forgot now. And she stopped over here, and she came over and excuse me, but she gave me a big hug and left, and that was the last time I seen her.
Each day was very painful and so many questions. And why would somebody do that to her? Because it was such a gruesome murder. They say people can die from a broken heart. I believe it because I felt like I was dying, you know, at the time.
Today we'll be taking a moment of silence in honor of Mindy Morgenstern. Please honor her with your silence.
Days after Mindy was murdered, the community is still in disbelief. Some have moved on from shock, now just consumed with sadness.
Everybody always went to the football games in Valley City. There were people that had made T-shirts for Mindy in memory of her. So everybody was wearing their T-shirts that Saturday.
They also had made buttons of Mindy saying, remember. I do have my button still. She drives with me every morning. I make sure that she's always with me.
As trumpets ushered in her casket, plenty of tears were shed before anyone even said a word about Mindy Morgenstern. And once the memories started to flow about the woman who always had a zest for life, it was hard for friends and family to stop their tears.
They had the stage right here. Her casket was right here. And they had a ball tied in the net to represent her love for the game.
There were so many people in the community that came out for her memorial service. And the police told us, they said that a lot of times the person who commits the murder does show up for the funeral. So we knew there were people watching. They had different investigators there, watching and wondering and just checking out the whole place.
It was kind of scary. You know, we're going to sit here and be kind of up in the front and don't know if that person is at the funeral or not. Every person, stranger you see, you wonder, could this be the person?
There was no information that we were able to glean by sending anybody to the funeral. There just wasn't anything that we were able to find out.
When DCI gets involved in a case in which the agents may have questions about search warrants, about how to proceed on certain things, they'll call and ask my criminal division for advice about those kind of things. As law enforcement is gathering and following up on leads, it turns out one of the leads was actually provided by Mindy prior to her death. 2 or 3 weeks before she was murdered, she had gone to law enforcement and was concerned that she was being followed by somebody.
This used to be my family's restaurant, Robbie's. And this is how I met Mindy. She waitressed and I would either be cooking or waitressing with her. And it was usually just a couple nights. She was a very good waitress. Very smiley, bubbly. She just had that personality of a people pleaser. The kind of person who would sit down at the table and strike up a conversation with some of our customers and just joke with them and be really open and happy. And there were quite a few of them here that really liked her. Yeah.
One of her coworkers said that there was a guy that lived across the street from where the restaurant was, lived in a camper. He'd act weird and always was kind of watching Mindy and other staff at that restaurant.
Do you live anyplace else besides in your camper? No. Okay.
Mindy called me one day late in the summer. I was at home, and I remember her saying she was kind of shaky, and upset. And she said that this man had lived across the street from Robbie's restaurant. And she said he was an older man, and she didn't trust him, and she felt uneasy.
Kind of a loner, right?
You could say I'm a drifter, but yeah, I'm kind of a loner.
Nobody really knew much about him. He was kind of a stranger in town.
The members of the community were not thinking about who locally could have done this, because most of them just couldn't believe that somebody from here probably could do anything like this.
Have you ever been in any kind of trouble with the law?
None.
There was something off about him. Kind of creepy. He just had this look about him of, I wouldn't want to be alone in an area with him. And Mindy did say he gave her the creeps. Felt weird around him.
Have you ever eaten at Do you ever go for coffee or anything at Roby's?
Nope. There's one place I've never been in.
You've never been in Roby's?
Nope.
It's right across the street from you.
I know.
When they were reporting this to law enforcement is that he was flirty with Mindy and other waitresses who worked there, and so she had talked about this and raised a concern about her safety because of that.
So you've been in almost all the other restaurants, but not there.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I don't have an answer for you.
She was wondering, Mom, what should I do? So I told her, well, call the cops if you're real concerned. You know, it doesn't hurt. Just call, talk to them. And I said, maybe somebody will come over and talk to you.
Was there an incident that happened where you were upset with one of the waitresses and you kind of had some words with her and then came back the next day and apologized?
No.
Not you?
That wasn't me.
Okay.
We drove down to the police station and filed a report. She told him what she knew, and then she stayed with me for a while because she was upset. The police officers worked really hard just to try and find this person she thought was trying to take her. But then a few weeks later, she had been killed.
Remember what you were doing on Wednesday?
On Wednesday? I was here.
Here Wednesday? Did you know this girl?
Not at all.
When law enforcement went to talk to him, interestingly enough, he did have a cut or a scratch on one of his arms.
I know you got a mark on your hand. How did you get that?
When I put that oil filter on.
Was it kind of a tight squeeze to get your hand?
Yeah.
Which they were looking for because from the appearance of her fingernails that she likely scratched the individual who murdered her.
Here's the deal. We've questioned a lot of people, and every person that we've talked to so far has been extremely cooperative with us, such as you have been with these questions that we've asked.
Sure, I'd like to help you find whoever did that.
That's good, because one of the processes that we use is to eliminate people that we've talked to. What we'd like to do is like to take your picture and things like that. Would you have a problem with that?
You can take my picture, but I'm not a criminal.
We believe you.
We really narrowed our scope at that point. We kind of just started our focus on him and his past and his history.
Did you have anything to do with this girl's death?
I haven't killed anyone.
Did you kill her?
Ever. I didn't kill her.
We submitted DNA samples that Monday for 5 subjects that were people of interest. 4 of the samples came back negative, and 1 of the samples came back a positive match. So that DNA was ran twice just to verify that the DNA was correct. I was very surprised because I didn't think a person like this would do that.
Released a lot of information yet, but at this point our main objective was to actually get the person responsible off the street.
When Mindy was murdered, it was tough. I broke down and cried. I haven't cried like that ever since. I mean, since Mindy's death. It was supposed to be about Mindy and her life, you know, instead of, I almost felt like I was kind of fighting for, you know, maybe my freedom or something. I mean, poor girl, poor Mindy, what did she endure during those last minutes? I mean, I can imagine the fear that she was going through and nobody was able to help her. I truly believe that my parents liked us being together. I know my dad was a big fan. I think just her bubbly personality, because my dad's very similar. And I think it was tough for my dad too, once we broke up, that, you know, he kind of lost, in a sense, you know, what he felt was another daughter.
We submitted 5 DNA samples from possible suspects. The DNA that came back positive pointed towards a person in the community that a lot of people knew and trusted. When the DNA came back, Jay, Kyle's dad, and the stranger that lived across the street from the restaurant, they were all cleared.
Do you have any problem with taking a polygraph or anything? No, I don't. Okay.
The correctional officer, Mo Gibbs' DNA matched with the DNA that was under her fingers. So he came in for his polygraph examination.
Regarding Mindy's death, do you intend to truthfully answer those questions?
Yes.
On September 13th, did you physically harm Mindy and cause her death?
No.
The night that Mo Gibbs had murdered Mindy, sometimes I think, what if I wouldn't have seen him carrying stuff out of the apartment? Would we have a murderer still out there?
Well, there's a little bit of indication there that something is bothering you about this, and you claim you didn't know anything about, what was wrapped around her neck and that, but yet when I asked you about the belt, you really reacted to it. And I guess I'm just sort of wondering why that was.
I just answered, truthfully, I don't know.
And polygraph examiner noted that, and some of his statements were kind of inconsistent.
What do you know about DNA?
Nothing.
Nothing?
So.
And you let him take a swab from you to match against DNA.
Yeah.
How would you feel if I told you that your DNA matches DNA that we found on Mindy's body?
I'd be like, that wasn't true, so I know I wasn't there, so.
Okay. DNA is pretty specific. How did scrapings or your skin get under her fingernails? How could that have happened? The only way it could have gotten there, Mo, was through contact.
Could you stand up, please, and put your hand behind your back? We have an arrest warrant for the murder of Mindy Morgenstern. There we go. What happened there?
That happened Thursday when I was moving.
What happened when you...
I was like packing stuff in boxes. And this one on this side right here, that happened Friday in Fargo.
Uh-huh.
And I was putting in the car seat.
Hey, Dave? Swenson? Come on in.
Mo Gibbs was a Barnes County jailer, so the sheriff's department knew him, we knew him, because we would bring people into the jail. He would book them in and process them.
So what do you think, Dave, about this stuff with Mo?
Honestly, I was shocked. I knew Mo personally, but I knew that the evidence and the DNA didn't lie. I knew that Mo had done it.
Accused murderer Mo Gibbs stands trial for murdering 22-year-old Mindy Morgenstern. Assistant State's Attorney John Byer says they believe Mo Gibbs tried to make some kind of sexual advance towards Morgenstern. He says it didn't happen because Mindy resisted, and that's why she died.
That's your daughter. That's his daughter. I knew my Mindy. I knew she would fight to the death. Like, she wanted to know, what do I do, like, if somebody would ever attack me? And I said, well, you fight. And then later, I guess I wished I wouldn't have told her that,
Everybody was very willing to help law enforcement in this case.
It killed me because there was nothing that I could do, and all I wanted to do was go up to her apartment and do something. But my hope is in knowing that I will see her again someday.
The last day that Mindy was alive, she asked me, do you think I will be a good mother someday? And I told her that she would be an amazing mom. Now she's up in heaven and she's looking over all of us, making sure that we're being the amazing parents that we need to be for our kids.
If I start talking to anybody, even in a store, you know, they'll come in and visit and they say, you know, how are you getting through it? And there's some days you can't.
It's really something how you can feel like you want to go back in time. And you can't. Mindy was a believer, and we're all her children. That's all we wanted, was for them to, you know, have that peace in their hearts. There was another life ahead for them, a better life ahead someday.